How much does it cost?
It is not for sale.
I'll give you $100 million.
How many times do I have to tell you? It's not for sale.
The largest island in the world, cold, pale, with limited opportunities, few people, far away from the world, Greenland. Greenland is surrounded by the Arctic Ocean to the north, the Atlantic Ocean and Iceland to the east, the Denmark Strait to the south, Baffin Bay and Canada to the west.
To acquire Greenland.
Acquiring Greenland, it does not give Greenland.
As you can see, Greenland news has been on the agenda around the world recently. These lands, which especially whet the appetite of the United States, have aroused great curiosity in people with the recent statements of Donald Trump, who was re-elected president. So what makes this lump of ice so priceless? Why does Trump want to buy Greenland? Which countries other than the US are interested in this land? Greenland's economy is constrained by its geographical location and climate. As of 2021, Greenland's GDP is approximately $3.24 billion. GDP per capita is $57,857. Maybe you might think that's high, but you have to take into account that the population is only 56,000 people. Greenland's economy is largely based on fishing and seafood exports, especially products such as shrimp and halibut constitute the country's main export items. Machinery and transportation equipment, fuels, and food products have an important place in imports. Denmark and other European Union countries are the biggest partners in foreign trade. In order to understand this subject better and to know more about it, we have to go back a little bit to the past, to the years when these events first took place. With German submarines operating in the Atlantic, Greenland became strategically important. As a result, the United States began to build bases and send military forces without Denmark's permission. The most important of these was Thule Air Base, now Patuffik Spaceport, established in 1943. Not content with this, the U.S. increased the number of bases, building Bluey West 8 in South Greenland, Bluey East 2 in East Greenland, and Sondrestrom Air Base. After the war, in 1946, President Truman offered $100 million to buy Greenland. Taking inflation into account, this amounted to about $1.5 billion in today's dollars. Denmark, however, politely but firmly rejected the offer. Despite these events, the U.S. did not stop the operation of its bases in Greenland. With the beginning of the Cold War, the importance of Greenland increased day by day. There are three main reasons why the U.S. wants Greenland. Although Greenland is an ice-covered island, it has soils rich in rare earth elements, oil and natural gas reserves. The availability of such natural resources means that Greenland has great potential to advance its economy. For example, rare earths are critical for battery production, solar and wind energy technologies, and military applications. We all know how far China has come in these areas recently. Since 2023, the U.S. has been importing 78% of its rare earths from China. If the U.S. can utilize the reserves in Greenland, it can increase its own production and reduce its dependence on China. Greenland is also rich in oil and natural gas. According to U.S. estimates, Greenland has 17 billion barrels of oil and 148 trillion cubic meters of natural gas reserves. If these resources were exploited, the U.S. oil reserves could double. This could place the U.S. in fourth place after Iraq in the world, ranking with 169 billion barrels of oil reserves. Another important sector that Greenland has is the fishing industry. The fact that the island is surrounded by water makes fishing a major market for exports to Europe. As a result, the U.S. could have a big say in Europe in this area as well. Rare earth elements found in the southern part of Greenland, especially in the Quanersut region. According to research by the Swedish national newspaper Dagens Nyheter, Greenland contains critical raw materials, uranium and oil, worth at least $2.54 trillion. Uranium is located in the Quanersut region, and the spot price of uranium varies depending on market conditions, usually hovering between $30 to $50 per pound. Iron ore, located in the Isua region of western Greenland, where reserves of about 1.1 billion tons of high-quality iron ore have been identified. The price per ton varies between $80 to $120. Gold is located in the Nalunak region, and its price per ounce hovers between $1,500 to $2,000. Oil and natural gas are found in the marine areas off the west and east coasts of Greenland. The price of oil varies between $50 to $70 per barrel. Shrimp, cod, and halibut are Greenland's main export products. They are found extensively on the west and southwest coasts. Annual fish and seafood production is around 150,000 to 200,000 tons. For example, the price per kilogram of shrimp can be between $10 to $15. Calculate this, and you can see how serious a source of income it is. The opening of new routes due to melting ice in the Arctic makes Greenland an important location for logistics and maritime trade. The U.S. intends to use these routes to drastically reduce logistics costs. It could also dominate new routes between Asia and Europe. For example, the U.S. already uses the Suez Canal and the Panama Canal. One of the challenges for the U.S. is the long transit time, which can take almost 40 to 50 days, and the cost is very high. The U.S. pays as high as $450,000 to $500,000 for transit through these canals. However, by using the Northern Sea Route, the U.S. can reduce its costs by almost 30 to 40% and shorten the delivery time by 10 to 15 days. If we recall what we have said so far, we can understand how important Greenland is for the United States. In short, if the U.S. strengthens its ports in Greenland, it can gain commercial supremacy on the Northern Sea Route and reduce its dependence on Russia's port of Murmansk. What advantages would the U.S. gain as a result? Reduces costs by shortening trade via the Northern Sea Route, gains advantage on trade routes between Europe and Asia, gains strategic superiority in the Arctic against China and Russia. New logistics bases strengthen the U.S. role in global trade. Since 1946, U.S. bases have been operating in Greenland. Yes, Greenland is a very important military geopolitical point for the U.S. It is not just an island, but one of the most critical points of the NATO defense line. Thanks to Thule Air Base, it is a strategic center for global defense and missile early warning systems. It is a key element in maintaining its advantage against rivals such as China and Russia. Greenland is located at a point that connects three continents: the Americas, Europe, and Asia. If the U.S. loses full control of Greenland, NATO's defense line in the North Atlantic could be weakened, Russia could increase its influence in the Arctic, and China's expansion plans in the Arctic could accelerate. So, even in the current situation, the U.S. benefits greatly from having a few bases in Greenland. But what would happen if they took over Greenland completely? Let me know in the comments. Every good thing can have some side effects. Greenland is just such a place. Yes, it will have great economic benefits, but there are also a lot of downsides. So what are they? Now, let's say he takes control of Greenland. First of all, Greenland's weather conditions and inadequate infrastructure require a huge amount of economic power. This includes the cost of new roads, ports, power plants, and urbanization projects. It can be done, but even though it is a powerful state, it will of course have some negative effects. The next challenge is environmental and climate-related risks. The U.S. could increase pressure on global climate change in order to extract natural resources. This could undermine U.S. environmental policies and lead to a loss of prestige internationally. More often, when we talk about these issues, we don't consider the human factor. The people of Greenland want to live independently, and in this case, a public backlash and possible civil unrest could be very costly. Of course, the U.S. is not the only powerful state in the world, and the U.S. is dependent on many countries, so China and Russia could impose economic sanctions to prevent the U.S. from controlling Greenland. Their relationships in the global market would be weakened, and their imports and exports would suffer. This is a long-term plan, and the long-term benefits to the U.S. could be very high, but the short-term economic difficulties they will face could be great. Considering the current global balances, such a move could create a geopolitical crisis rather than an economic one. So let me ask you, how good an idea is it for the U.S. to want to take Greenland? So far, we've talked about what happened, what would happen if the U.S. took it, the pros and cons. But the question arises, can the U.S. really take Greenland under its control? Here, I would like to give an answer like this: yes and no, because the U.S. cannot fully take or control Greenland, but it can do it indirectly or partially. And how? By making economic investments, by expanding military bases, by supporting Greenland's independence process. In these ways, it can exert a great influence, but complete takeover or direct control is out of the question. Greenland is an autonomous island territory, and the people elect their own government, even though it is sparsely populated. And Denmark is not willing to sell it to the United States, and the international community would probably reject such a move. Throughout history, humanity has always wanted the best and the most. More money, more power, and so on. In this case, what the US is doing is no different. A country with trillions of dollars in debt, millions of unemployed, homeless, hungry people, yet it has its eyes set on more at any cost. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe and like the video. See you